Hello everyone, I am Debra Chakravarti, Senior Analyst in Agriculture and Food Vertical at BIS Research. It is my honor to present you today's webinar, Farm Management Software Enabling a Trusted Supply Chain. BIS Research has been tracking the agriculture and food market since the past 7 years. While several smart farming technologies have been introduced over the years, farm management has stood out due to the combination of benefits it provides to the whole agricultural ecosystem. Farm management software provides a convenient and effective solution to the problems of handling large amounts of data generated from farms which are larger in size. These not only help in data handling, but they also provide analytical services which help a farmer in taking more informed decisions. These software ensure the utilization of each acre of a farm to its maximum potential. Immense interest shown by professionals and students from various organizations across the world and from agriculture and food supply chain through registrations show the amount of potential everyone sees in farm management software. For today's discussion, we have an esteemed list of speakers. Firstly, we have Guillaume Antoine Rabhi, a management board member and chief digital officer at AGRIVI. Guillaume is in charge of designing the product strategy, monitoring the different lines of product development, and overseeing all technology partnerships. He brought to AGRIVI a significant experience in scaling up fast-growing teams, projects, as well as implementing digital transformation in bigger corporate settings. Guillaume is engaged within local startup community gatherings where he shares best practices for product development and successful go-to-market strategies, and is a regular speaker in the Croatian media to share his views upon the future of agriculture, scale-up strategies, and product marketing. We also have Om Routray with us. Om leads global marketing at SourceTrace. He is very passionate about bringing forth the social capital that technology can bring. He brings 14 years of experience in the field of digital marketing, community building, and knowledge creation. Om has also set up the AgriTech initiative at NASSCOM and led it for 2 years, building alliances and exploring global opportunities for the Indian AgriTech sector. He has been featured at ET Now's Leaders of Tomorrow show. He regularly writes for various national and international publications. Also, we have with us our host speaker, Rakhi Tanwar. Principal analyst at BIS Research, Rakhi has been tracking digital technologies in agriculture for past 7 years and currently serves as the principal analyst at BIS Research. Her specialization ranges from digitization in agriculture and food industry, crop protection chemical, new farming methodologies, to human and animal nutrition. Rakhi's work has been printed in Agro Pages magazine and has been quoted by various agriculture food magazines such as CNN International and among others. I thank all the panelists for their gracious presence. So let's discuss about the agenda for today. We will start by highlighting the key issues currently affecting the farming industry and understand the need for farm management software and data analytics for a sustainable future. We will also emphasize on the use cases of farm management software across the agriculture and food industry, followed by the adoption scenario and opportunities across the globe. In the next 40 minutes, we will all keen to learn from your knowledge and experience about farm management software and data analytics, and towards the end of the discussion, I will open the panel to the audience for any questions. I would request everyone in the audience to kindly mute their phones during the webinar and type in the questions towards the end of the webinar. Any questions that we are not able to answer today shall be reverted offline. Having said that, let me open this panel for discussion and invite thoughts from Mrs. Rakhi Tanwar. Over to you, Rakhi.
Thank you, Debraj, for such a thoughtful introduction. I would like to warmly welcome the audience and our esteemed guest speakers. Thank you for your valuable presence. I would like to begin by discussing the key global issues outlined by BIS Research impacting the farming sector and generating the need for farm management software. There are various concerns such as rising urbanization, shortage of skilled agricultural workforce, the volatile climate, and shrinking natural resources, along with the degrading soil quality and lack of transparency that are impacting the farming industry. All these factors are interlinked. Urbanization has led to shortage of skilled labor and conversion of cultivating land into urban centers, uh, due to which infrastructure this has also adversely affected availability of natural resources that are essential for cultivation. During Green Revolution, the use of chemical fertilizers grew 10 to 20 times. Over the years, with gradual increase in consumption of chemical fertilizers, modern farming became dependent on these types of inputs. This has caused the soil to degrade and would continue to do so if sustainable practices are not implemented. To overcome these challenges, the adoption of digital farming solutions becomes crucial. Countries in North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific, among other regions, are inclining towards adopting advanced farming technologies such as FMS and data analytics in order to increase the farm produce per hectare. Now let's understand how FMS is adding value to the supply chain. FMS and data analytics software has a huge influence on the entire value chain, starting from managing inputs to the end user. It allows efficient resource allocation as well as helps in overall management of farming operations. FMS acts as a bridge between various hardware systems and sensors, allowing seamless communication and control over them. This reduces manual efforts of record keeping, field visits, manual inspections. Instead, everything within the range is managed using a software. The information gathered using various sensors throughout the farming operation is very crucial. However, that, that has to be interpreted properly for fruitful outcomes. Data analytics software allows farmers to access and interpret these data in one go without the need of manual intervention. FMS allows farmers to optimize farming process, which increases efficiency. This could help in managing resources and inputs, reducing waste or overuse. The issue of degrading land quality can directly be addressed by efficient resource allocation and calculative input management. Data analytics manages, centralizes, and optimizes the farm's production activities and helps the farmer in decision making, using that information throughout the production cycle. Through automation, instances of crop failure would decrease as the farm would be continuously monitored and required measures could be taken at the right time. Since farm management software and data analytics is actively transforming the agriculture industry, understanding the market in detail is crucial. For this, I would like to invite our guest speaker, Om Routray, to discuss more on how farm management software is serving as an ideal solution. Over to you, Om.
Um, I'd like to begin by thanking the whole and BIS Research for organizing this and making us a part of this initiative. What I'd like to begin by saying is, I guess there's a lot of information that you can get from various sources, but as that implements solutions, I'd like to give a of what we're seeing in different geographies that we operate in. Currently, source operates in the 70s. So we'll probably into how the sector is evolving, and I'll probably take three different case studies on ground implementation and impact. So yeah, Devraj, if you can give me the next slide. So, all of us know about the biggest issues that face food production, food supply, and food trade. So, the issues can be looked at three different segments. One is food security, which is, the production and availability of food for all. Second would be food safety. And third would be food trade. And we will see how digital platforms affect all three. Next slide. So we'll talk about the pre-COVID and the post-COVID world in a few moments. But before that, these are the questions that the food world was trying to answer since forever. I mean, I've been a part of this sector for 5 years now, but I guess these were questions that were being asked even before digital entered the food trade sector. So, all of us wanted to know where the food comes from. Is it safe to eat? Uh, then you have compliance agencies and multiple governments in different geographies which are trying to regulate how food is traded, what food is traded, and the ethics of it. So, what we are looking at is digital solutions which can answer these questions better for all stakeholders. So how do you collect, all these data points, and how do you transfer that to the stakeholders in a easy to share and consume and consumable manner? Next slide, please. Now, when I started working in this sector, I mean, the questions that everyone asked as, a budding technology sector is, how much technology can seriously impact the world's oldest sector, which is agriculture, right? So, until a few years back, I mean, we went to conferences and people told us that, the best that technology can do is barely scrape the surface because the problems in agriculture are really deep and complex. But I'm happy to say that in last 2-3 years, what we have seen is, you can look at agriculture and food as a data issue. And at SourceTrace, what we do is we work with more than 1.5 million small farmers. And what we said is, can you turn this, the farmer, the food, and the consumer, can you do a data web that benefits all of them? So can I turn the small farmer into a data point as a product, as a producer, as a, as a potential benefactor from that trade, and also as someone who interacts with, food businesses, with governments, with consumers? How do you empower a small farmer with data? Right? And that's what we will see in coming slides. Next slide, please. So what is the data that we need? I mean, when we look at the, we conventionally look at the technology and food and agriculture interactions as two different sectors. One is called agri-tech, and once the food enters the processing, we call it food tech. But what platforms are doing now, and we at SourceTrace, that's precisely what we are doing also, is breaking down that definition barrier between what's agri-tech and what's food tech. So what it impacts is, before these two sectors became concretely different sectors, you looked at the farmer, the farm, pesticide usage, issues of deforestation, etc., as serious agricultural issues. And then you looked at food contamination, food trade, compliance, import, export, all that as, smart labels. You looked at that as food tech issues. But as we started working with multiple governments and large multinational corporations, we saw that these issues are not exactly watertight. I mean, you can't exactly break them down into two different segments. Today, a consumer wants to know where the food comes from, wants to see who is the farmer. So the agri-tech and the food tech, those barriers are being broken. And we look at farm management software or platforms or digital platforms, whatever you call them, as the key instrument or the key tool that is breaking those barriers and definitions down. Next slide, please. So, as I said, what does a farm management system do? It aggregates data. And we monitor farms, we monitor farmers, we monitor entire ecosystems, be it processing, be it transport, be it warehouses. So we monitor food production systems and food transport systems. And then we aggregate this data. Now, via extension, it happened via smart hardware, IoT devices, weather reports, you name it. We all work with a lot of corporations where we are the digital interface that companies or corporations have. So we aggregate data from non-digital formats. It can be Excel sheets, it can be paper pen formats, it can be a physical lab-tested report that we scan and upload onto the cloud. So the aggregation happens in different ways, and it also depends on who are the stakeholders and what tools they are using currently. Once that happens, you need to report that data to the stakeholder. So if you're working with a compliance agency, a Raintree or a Fair Trade or a import agency, it can be a government, it can be a bank, or it can be, we also see that a lot of our customers use digital for internal monitoring purposes. We need to monitor different parts of the food production system. We need to aggregate data from different partners, different tools, different stakeholders. Then the reporting happens. If a good farm management software should also allow reporting. It can be now reporting it also works in different ways. So for example, when we take a project, we need to use that data. The stakeholders and what should be the level of access to those data points. So reporting is a key part. Reporting via mobile applications, web dashboards, emails. So how need to look at that data. Then sharing. Now sharing it can be within an ecosystem. For example, let's say if you are a food company, who you share the data with, extension workers, your contract farmers, your importer or exporter. And then finally, as you are seeing, we are also gamifying the consumer part. So also sharing data with the end consumer. Next slide, please. We will talk about digital, and as I said, we will talk specifically about impact post-COVID. And what FAO has been saying in last 2 years is these are the impacts that digitization and the platformification, if I can call it that, is having on agriculture. Right. Next slide, please. So, post-COVID, we have seen as a company, as a sector, and also looking at the amount of VC fund that is flowing into the sector, we have seen that there is a significant uptick in platform adoption. And why did COVID have that? First was as COVID was ravaging the world, we work a lot in the global south, and we saw that the farmers were having difficulty in going to the farms. Or for example, inspectors or compliance agents, extension workers, all of them had difficulty in monitoring the projects that they're handling. And a farm management software enables and automates that monitoring. So, we are not exactly pulling human out of those processes, but we are giving them new tools. So, and more efficient agents on the field. So that's one factor. Second was, we also saw that, the unprecedented disruption in global value chains, right? Sourcing, supplying, logistics, lab testing, all those interaction points broke. So what we have done in a few projects post-COVID is, how do we get a aggregator with a warehouse agent with not parts that we are handling. Logistics was not a big part of what SourceTrace did before COVID, but that's probably a huge chunk post-COVID. And the trust deficit. Here, as I said, we'll talk about the consumer gamification. How do you build trust with the consumer or about where the food comes from? Next slide, please. And Rakhi, can you please just update me once, I'm closer to 7 minutes, I can wrap up. When we look at data, we're looking at who is the creator of data, where do you get the data from, who is the user. So we work with multiple governments, donor agencies, MNCs, small cooperatives which have less than 1,000 farmers. So we work for us. The data creator and the data user is completely across the spectrum. And format, as I said, who are the stakeholders? What is their comfort with technology? We also work with, for example, Android applications, but we also enable pushing data into non-digital formats where the user is someone who doesn't have access, for example, let's say mobile technology or internet. Next slide, please. Now, this is a touchpoint map for SourceTrace. When we call ourselves a platform, what we have been doing is also constantly building on these touchpoints. So, for example, we have been in operation for 8 years now. For the first few years, our expertise was in the first mile, farm, geotagging of farms, looking at the production processes. So, if a company or a government is working with a large number of farmers, up until 2018, most of our projects had 100,000 farmers or 200,000 farmers. So really large projects where, data was a key issue. You didn't know who your farmer was, what he was growing, their access to schools, toilets, financial tools. So a lot of our work in first 5 years was bringing all these data online. The first digitization in many countries, in around 15 African countries, was done by us. So then I guess what we moved into is also, having a AI ML for pest and disease monitoring, sending out weather data. And, in last 2-3 years, what we have seen is as we moved into traceability, what we have seen is how do you also, once the produce leaves the farm and the farmer, how do you track it via logistics, processing, storage, shipping, and then retail? So these are the components that we have built over the last 4 years. And now as a solution that started as a farm management software, we have now scaled into becoming I don't know, there is no term for it, but probably a value chain software. And as I said, what we are doing is breaking down the agri-tech and the food tech parts of it. I'll give you one example. The latest problem that we are working on is how do you make the consumer interaction more interesting? We know that putting a QR code and giving origin data is a first step, and we are still doing that. I mean, I don't see that as a trend that is saturated yet, but we are going ahead of time. What we are doing is, imagine if you can scan a QR code, you can see where the farmer, who grew the food, and you can tip the farmer just the way you tip a delivery boy or a Uber driver, right? So because we are collecting the farmer's bank account numbers, etc., we can do that. Theoretically, we can do that. We still haven't done that in practice because we don't have a customer who wants to implement that part. But next 2 years, I mean, that's where we as a basically origin farm management software is moving towards consumer interactions. Next slide, please. Next one. So what I'll show you is probably this is a problem that we're currently working on. So rice exporters from India. So traditionally this is done. The sourcing is done via sourcing agents, via locally called aratyas, and basmati is a key export from India. Now, how do you turn the basmati export into a kind of a digital tool-enabled trade? So, currently most of the rice exporters don't have data of farmers. The data that they have is of sourcing agents, but they don't know where the rice comes to those agents, right? So that's the first problem that we are solving. Second is most of these rices actually go to a lab, which takes 25 to 30 days. The lab report comes back. There is a delay for the company in looking at which agent gave them better rice and who didn't. So we are also bridging that that data gap and also the time gap. And third is now you look at most Western countries who want to see what went into that rice. What is the kind of pesticide that was sprayed, where was it grown, etc., etc. Next slide, please. So this is a project with Central Bank of Nigeria where we worked with more than 200,000 farmers. Because it's a government agency, we could collect biometric data of farmers. We could, in fact, if you can go to the next slide. So here there are multiple stakeholders. That is a bank, that is a smart card agri stack which is run by the government, and then there are different partners. As you can see, I mean, like NSwitch or the and SourceTrace. So this is a good use case of what a farm management software can potentially do, right? So you can bring government and non-governmental agencies onto the same platform, and by making each and every farmer out of those 200,000 farmers, making all of them and all their transactions visible, what you're doing is you're giving them an entry into the formal economy. You're giving their financial history a record, which, as we can see, I mean, it also enables them in their future tradings with government and other agencies by giving them a formal financial history.
Yeah.
Next one, please.
Sorry to interrupt. If you could wrap up in the next 2 minutes, please, so that we could adhere to the time. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Give me just 1 minute. So I'll skip this. Can we skip this and go to the QR code? Next one. So this is for a global food major, a spice importer from US. So what we do here is, you can go to the next slide. We put QR codes on each of the packets, and as you can see, what we the data that we are capturing is where the farm where it is grown, the farmer who grew it, what season did he grow it in, the trucking, the warehousing, and the chilies go to the lab, they come back with a test report. We also digitize that. And last screen that you can see is what is the name of the pesticide and how often the farmer sprayed it, and did he follow the protocol which is set by that particular company or not. So, and all this data can be transferred through the end consumer, no matter where he is. So this is the potential of a farm management software, and this is how the data can be transmitted to different agents. So I'll probably just wrap up here and wait for any questions if there are any. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Over to you, Guillaume. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me tonight. So, and hello, everyone from every places in the world. I saw there is someone from Colombia as well, and from India, I guess. So thanks again. So what you may have seen from Om's presentation is actually that FMS is a quite complex business, and that it's actually something very comprehensive with a lot of potential use cases. So what I'm used to doing when I'm having this kind of like webinars is first starting by telling you or telling the audience a secret. So this is my secret to you guys, and my secret is actually that farm management software are not very easy to sell. Having said that, if we can move to the next slide, I will explain a little bit more how we've tried to bridge this issue at AGRIVI. Why are FMSs pretty difficult to sell? First of all, as you have understood from Om's presentation, there is a huge level of complexity here. There are tons of potential use cases. One of the key issues is actually that when you're addressing like big enterprise clients from the food and agro value chain, sometimes they don't even know what they want to solve. Sometimes they don't even know what the problem they have is actually. Sometimes they don't even like the word farm management system or farm management software. They don't want to discuss with you because you're actually talking about it in a certain way, or they don't want to discuss about features. So in a nutshell, this is something which is still a pretty complex business. So at AGRIVI, what we've decided a couple of years ago is actually to address it a completely different way. And this is actually our approach, which is fully value-based. So What does it mean? Actually, we believe that the first way of trying to implement in big organization farm management software has to do with solving challenges and solving issues by bringing immediate values. In that event, what we are actually doing when we are getting to know our customers is actually to tell them what are the key set of immediate value we believe we can bring them through the usage of a farm management software. So there are 6 or 7 of them I would like to highlight today, and then we will switch to the use cases so that you understand exactly how this is setting up. So the first one is transparency. So as Om said in his presentation, thanks to the usage of the farm management software, you're going to be able to get access to a clear and transparent overview of a huge network of farmers, know what they're doing, know their processes, getting to know their practices. The second one is efficiency. It does mean that by working through a farm management software, by using it properly, you're going to be able to increase your operational excellence and your yield eventually. The third one is food safety, and I'll come back to it later on. The fourth one is quality. The fifth one is sustainability, and the sixth one is traceability, as Om explained in his presentation. So if we move to the next slide, what I would like to show you guys is actually how we are bringing this value-based approach to clients through identifying real issues which the key value chain stakeholders are facing, in which ways they can solve them. So the first of this issue is product recalls. So product recalls, for those who don't know what it means, are actually happening when quality control is finding on the retailer's shelves products within which there is abnormal traces of remaining pesticides. So you can move to the next slide. And the results of a product recall most of the time are actually huge costs for the companies involved. Direct costs, indirect costs, which are running from 10 to even sometimes over $100 million in average from recalling those products. So where is this coming from? If you move to the next slide, you realize that everything is starting at the farm level. And it has to do with the pesticides usages. It has to do with spraying. It has to do with a set of sustainability and food safety requirements, which could be regulatory and which could be imposed at the country level, but which could be as well imposed at the company itself level. And basically, given that there is a rule and given that there is a certain threshold which cannot be overcome, farmers cannot actually do preventive spraying, which would mean that they can spray whenever they want to achieve a better result in terms of yield or temporary get rid of pests or diseases. So what is very important is that by using a farm management software, you could reach the monitoring which is required and get evidences of the risk which are found and when and at which period of time the spraying would be allowed. So if we move to the next slide, this is what we're actually telling to our clients. If you would like to empower the food safety in your organization by using a farm management software or a central platform and the combination of those features, you would manage to actually get rid of your product recalls issues. Within the platform, then you can combine a set of very efficient features, which are starting from pest risk detection, artificial intelligence modeling, scouting and evidence, product selection, which would actually give you the list of the right products you can use based on a maximum residue level regulation in the local market where you are, the variable application rates which you're actually allowed to use on your field at this exact time, and eventually the implementation of the traceability module and potentially as well the compliance reports to be sent within your organization or to your regulatory bodies so that you can eventually in some countries even get subsidized. So this is how we address one of the key features here, one of the key problems and challenges related to product recalls. If we move to the next slide, we are also talking with our customers about food waste, which is another very big issue. So if you're trying to highlight the value-based approach, food waste is, of course, one of the key challenges that all of the potential value chain stakeholders are facing. So what does it mean exactly? If we move to the next slide, you'll see that actually roughly 40% of the agro outputs are going directly to waste nowadays for a very clear reason, very important reason, is that most of the organizations are setting quality standards in terms of pesticide usages and in terms of quality of the output, which are actually not being abided to by a couple of farmers, and eventually there is a huge waste at the field level. For instance, we have a client of ours who needs to achieve a time window of 4 hours from field to can, and everything else which is actually not being harvested and sent over to processing during this time frame is actually being wasted. So if we move to the next slide. What's very important to actually try to cope with these challenges and how to actually foster the usage of farm management software in this event is to understand that all along the processing, all along the production processes, we have to be able about the quality of the food which is produced by identifying the pesticide residues. So to do so, and to manage to qualitatively monitor the level of pesticide used during spraying, for instance, and all along the production process, you will avoid food waste and financial losses. And this is actually the immediate value which can be brought to you by a farm management software. And we switch to the next slide, then you'll get access to the key features from the general digital platform, which are related to these challenges, and the key features which are bringing to you the exact value which are solving this problem. First of all, within the same platform, all farmers would get access to the agronomy best practices they could share within each other, which they could get inspired from, and which they could actually turn into best practices for underperforming farms. As well, they will be able to get all their spraying activities recorded and compared with the key regulatory and mandatory objectives they have in their respective markets. They will get access to the product database telling them exactly which product could be used at what time. Then they could get access as well to waiting period analysis, bringing them the exact time window during which they shouldn't proceed with any further spraying activities. And of course, harvesting safety dashboards telling them how, when, and at which pace they could harvest their produces in a way that they are meeting their food safety requirements to minimize as much as they can the waste during the harvesting process. So this is how we would address at AGRIVI the food waste issue. And then to finish on a more positive note with the next slide, there is always very much positive cases. So it's not always about reducing something negative, but it has as well, it's sometimes something to do with improving something which is already doing really well. And you can as well use farm management software with a clear goal of improving efficiency and reaching a better or even better operational excellence. So this is what we've trying to do with a client of ours in the US, Driscoll's, who is actually the biggest berry producers in the world. And with Driscoll's, actually, we've been facing a couple of new challenges with which had to do with R&D. So if you move to the next slide, you'll see that this client is very specific because they have 25 R&D farms on 3 continents worldwide. And actually, they also have, next slide. Next slide. There's more than 1,000 varieties of inbreed. Sorry, slide before. Getting too fast for me. 1,000 varieties in breeding each year. So the combination of the two is already something which is requiring from scratch a very, very good operational excellence. But this client wanted to go further on and managed to integrate all the different type of farms which were working on the production or on their breeds all over the world at the same time, within like an integrated central platform. So the challenge was, if we go now to the next slide, actually to find a way to reach this transparency level and to increase efficiency by integrating different practices, different farms on different continents, which were working with different products into one single platform. And we were starting with a very fragmented way of working, with some countries and some farms really working with pen and paper, some other working with Excel, some other having already some kind of like precise agronomy apps, and some other having some kind of like third-party platforms or ERPs or stuff which have been developed locally. And eventually the idea of the FMS has been to aggregate, as Holmes was saying in his presentation, all these together into one platform and being able to get the overarching view of those activities by reaching a monitoring, constant monitoring of the practices of the farms, of their processes, and eventually being able to advise on even better way of working to reach a higher efficiency. So if we look at eventually which are the features which kind of like popped up after that we identified the needs and after that we identified the challenge we wanted to solve, we will go to the next slide and see that it is about a central platform which has been localized across several countries. When we say localized, it means localized in several languages. So the specificity of AGRIVI accepts that it has the capacity to globally deploy. It is as well that it is available in more than 20 languages. With this value identification, by identifying the immediate value we can bring through the farm management system to Driscoll's, we actually managed to set up a platform which was solving complex farming process tracking into one or a single overview. We've integrated as well a lot of IoT sensor data, analyzed them, and turned them into actionable insights. We provided advanced analytics and reporting for, at the same time, the overarching view, which is basically the headquarters of the enterprise client, but as well for all single farm on each continent, getting access to customized reports and analytics, which were actually bringing value to them directly on the ground, but as well on a more aggregated way at the company level. We've managed to integrate with a lot of other third-party systems, fetch value and data from them, integrate them within the farm management software, and turn them into insights, so that basically the overall FMS becomes a global platform for farm holding management. So this is in a nutshell what I wanted to tell you guys today, so that you can understand that even if selling an FMS is something which is pretty much complex, we believe that the right way to do so is, of course, to understand how this can change the way food is produced, but basically that we have to highlight even to big value chain stakeholders the key value which could be generated through the usage, and identify as well the key challenges that you have to face, so that we can actually understand the needs and turn the FMS into a proper solution which would be creating immediate value to solve their issues. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Guillaume, for explaining us these interesting use cases. Now let's understand in detail the several applications where farm management software is being used. Let's move to the next slide. Talking specifically about agriculture industry, FMS and data analytics have several applications and sub-applications, such as for precision crop farming. Applications include yield monitoring, farm mapping, resource management, and irrigation management. Similarly, for livestock management, applications are animal growth monitoring to milk harvesting and feeding management. Alternative farming includes applications such as lighting management, HVAC, where FMS is being widely used. And aquaculture includes feed management, water quality management, and aquatic species tracking. Considering these wide applications, FMS and data analytics are receiving a colossal reaction from speculators and investors around the world. The precision crop farming segment particularly is contributing the highest market share, and this high adoption rate is accredited to the improved farm profitability and beneficial results of utilizing FMS and data analytics in daily operations. Particularly, this application has witnessed a higher adoption rate in the developed regions. Let's move to the next slide. The governing trends of the FMS and data analytics market vary across different regions. As of now, in 2021, North America is at the forefront of the market, with a large market concentration in the US. According to BIS Research, the North America market for farm management software and data analytics is expected to witness a compounded annual growth rate of 17.47% from 2021 to 2026. This is due to the introduction of newer technologies, which is on the rise to meet the growing food demand. In fact, North America has been one of the early adopters of the precision agriculture solutions. While farm digitization is yet to settle in several countries of Africa and Asia, farmers from the countries of North America are exploring these kinds of advanced farming technologies for their sustainable and efficient production. Moreover, the region also serves as one of the most important regions for the farming industry, as leading OEMs are either based out of or are generating a significant share of their revenue from this region. A few of such companies are Deere & Company, Trimble Inc., Kubota, Topcon Corporation, and Raven Industries, among others. Moving on to the next slide. The growing market of these software and analytics products is expected to increase the involvement of companies across different segments of the value chain. To understand and track the ongoing activities across this market, one needs to understand the ecosystem properly. This figure talks about the farm management market ecosystem, ranging from established agricultural OEMs such as Deere & Company, AGCO Corporation, Claas, and CNH Industrial, to suppliers of systems and technologies and IT-based decision support systems and agri-input companies such as seed and fertilizer producers. The market also consists of several agricultural research institutes such as CSIRO, Fraunhofer, Wageningen University, among others. Additionally, the market also encompasses a number of venture capital investors, startups, and advanced solution providers. IT and big data platform providers such as IBM and Microsoft are also significant stakeholders in this market. Moving on to the next slide. This varied range of market participants provide opportunities to other players who are willing to bear the high risk involved in the industry. Entering into mergers and acquisitions has been a major strategic move made by a large number of companies since 2019 to maintain their market position and stop new entrants from expanding their operations in the market. Other types of strategies adopted by companies has been partnerships and collaborations and product launches. Let's move to the next slide. The upsurge in such activities is also a result of efforts by the big agricultural giants in order to expand their market share, specifically in the digital farming sector. Presently, various big agricultural companies, namely Monsanto, DuPont, Bayer, and BASF, are constantly increasing their investment for the digitization of farming sector by acquiring or collaborating with the data science companies. The market still holds a lot of potential in terms of growth, thus it is essential to scan through the opportunities existing in the market. BIS Research has penned down a few opportunities here. Let's talk about each one of them in very brief. First is initiatives by government pertaining to digitalization of agriculture industry. With every country attempting to achieve social and economic development, the adoption of farm management software and data analytics has given tremendous opportunities to help farmers manage their daily operations. This has resulted in government taking initiatives to adapt and deploy precision agriculture solutions such as farming software and data analytics tool. Government of developing countries are focusing on the growing demand for sustainable food production systems by allocating high investment amounts in farm management software. To give an example, the American Research Service, that is ARS, has collaborated with companies to advance the role of FMS enabled with AI in livestock monitoring, analyzing irrigation systems, using robots for harvesting, and utilizing drone technology to monitor crop health, among other applications. Now about the second opportunity here, integration of next generation technologies with FMS. FMS and data analytics solution is playing a massive role in developing both conventional and new farming techniques. Further, promoting digitization in agriculture industry would involve increased and integrated use of various advanced and next generation technologies, such as AI, drones and robots, autonomous equipment, etc. Integration of these next generation technologies with FMS would result in higher quality yields and reduce harmful impacts on the environment at the same time. To give you an example, FMS enabled with AI in its various forms, among all other technologies, can emerge as one of the most promising prospects for the advancement in field of agriculture. If AI and ML is integrated into one same system, the software can help in forecasting and predicting yield and related information which could be utilized by various stakeholders such as crop insurance companies. Now about the third opportunity, improvements in farm management software. Capabilities of every technology can be improved. Similarly, since FMS is also providing significant benefits in the farming operations, scope of improvements is also there here in FMS. One of the key reasons for this is that the current products that are available in the market across the globe are not able to scale up to support a large user base. Also, many diverse small-scale agricultural applications are unable to communicate and share data through these softwares and solutions, which at times leads to duplication of efforts, leading to waste and inability to integrate solutions. Without taking much time now I would like to conclude by saying that FMS is surely putting a significant impact on agriculture industry. Other than that, the gradual rise of other advanced technologies such as AI, ML, blockchain, and robotics are going to shape the future of farming over the next decade. Thank you. Over to you, Debraj.
So thank you very much, Rakhi, Guillaume, and Om for discussing adoption of farm management software in the agriculture industry so illustratively. With the increasing need for innovation solutions, farmers have constantly looked for technologies that enable them to enhance yield and maximize revenue opportunities. This has motivated the agriculture companies to enhance their investment in research and development of their technologies. BIS Research believes that the farm management software and data analytics market will reach $5.26 billion by 2026. And this is expected to remain a major game changer in the agriculture industry, supported by government initiatives as well as farmer-friendly business models by agriculture OEMs. In case you wish to see our sample of market intelligence report on farm management software and data analytics, you may ping on the chat and our team will get back to you soon. So with this thought, let me conclude today's session, and now I declare the forum open for any questions from the listeners. I request the listeners to kindly type in the questions on the chat box available on your screen, and I'll be happy to pass the questions to the esteemed speakers today. So over to you guys, over to the audience. Please type in the questions that you would like to ask to the speakers. Okay, so we have our first question here. It's not addressed to anybody else. Let me just quickly go through the question and let me know if anybody would like to take on this. Is your software feasible in developing countries like India, where most of the smallholder farmers are illiterate? How do you encourage the smallholder farmers from countries like India to use your product, because most of the illiterate farmers are not willing to adopt new digital technologies? Speakers, any of you would like to take up this question? This question is from Sumit Meshram.
Yeah, I can go first if there's no issue.
Okay, sure.
So Sumit, I guess, yeah. I guess everything that we do answers your question. As I said, we work in some 16 African countries, India, Bangladesh, where the farmers don't have access to smartphones. But farmers are not willing is probably the wrong thing to say. What you have to do is reduce the challenges in. Once you make that easy not inting a lot into what they're doing during the day, right? Once we remove all those blockages, they're very willing to adopt technologies. How do we encourage is build value. So most of the customers that we work with, they have to build some kind of reward into the proposition. For example, China Organic is one of our customers from India, and they export organic cotton. So they say they have been able to pay the farmers 10% more than the pre-digitization era. So if you build that value in, they're willing to adopt. Third, how do we make it easy is, in most of our cases, the farmers don't exactly use the application or software by themselves. There is a farmer mitra, extension workers, whatever you call it. I mean, the staff. So there's always a mediator who takes the technology to the farmer and does the initial handholding. So, I hope that's the question.
Should I answer the question as well, or?
I think you should.
Yeah, sure.
Jim. Yeah.
Why not?
So from our end, we are technically available in whichever country in the world, but we have to deploy additional languages depending on demand on those countries. So for Indian language, and I'm not an expert, so please forgive me, I'm not sure there is only one in India, but basically this is something which would have to be taken into consideration if we would need to localize. I believe that English could be as well working, but then for unliterate farmers, I think this was a question, and for adoption, our approach here is a little bit different. So we are trying to work through value chain towards B2B2C models. So what we are trying to reach through this strategy is actually bigger stakeholders who already are disseminating our products and the usage and the adoption of our products within their existing networks of partners. So it would mean that, for instance, if there is a key value chain stakeholder in India, whichever part of the value chain it belongs to, who is already cooperating with a lot of smallholders in India or wherever else in the world, but the question was about India, then we would actually try to set up a relationship with this, let's say, bigger customer, and throughout its existing farmers network, bring the AGRIVI solutions to smallholders. And regarding adoption, basically what we are providing to clients as well is our additional data and consulting services to actually ensure adoption in any type of settings, which could mean that eventually, in the case that like the end users are not literate, we can actually ensure that we are, through the existing adoption phase, filling up the data usage by ourselves, so that the key stakeholders are getting data back, because as Om mentioned, the data input are key at the very beginning, and eventually work a lot on these other aspects which have to do with automation, direct data collection from sensing, remote sensing tools, and so on and so on. So there are a way to let's say, find workarounds in these particular cases. But our strategy overall is actually B2B2C. So we actually are thinking that the best way to reach adoption and to reach the biggest number of key users, would they be smallholders and SME and SME farmers, is actually directly through the B2B2C or B2B strategy models through bigger stakeholders over the value chain.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Guillaume, for the answer. I guess there was a similar question to Guillaume also. What is the company's current take on reaching smallholder farmers of the developing countries? I guess
I actually tried to answer to that one as well. So I hope I answered to two questions.
Right. So we have one last question, and since we are running out of time, this would be the last question to the panel. I think this is one interesting question. How do infrastructural constraints such as poor network or poor internet connectivity affect the growth of farm management software and the corresponding market?
So I can take that one very quickly, because this is something we we got to understand very quickly in the product development phase of AGRIVI. So the mobile app, which is related to the AGRIVI farm management software. So not to get into details, but we've got an overarching web app and we've got a mobile app, which is actually the one which would be using farmers on the ground, is actually enhanced or empowered by an offline mode, which does mean that we're not depending anymore on internet connections.
Perfect. So I believe since we are running out of time, so any unanswered questions will be answered with the help of the speakers and BIS research analysts later on. We'll reach out to you, audience. So on that note, thank you so much, Guillaume, Om, for your insightful answers. We have now, since it has been a long day, we all want to, have a happy memory of all this, and it's been it's kind of a pouring of information, a lot of information to process. It was very interesting to know and understand different perceptions, of course. And thank you very much, Guillaume and Om, for joining us for this session. We have learned a lot about how farm management is enabling the supply chain. Thank you for sharing your insights and market enablers, applications, regional adoption, and use cases a lot. I mean, use cases actually help us to understand the practical nature of the query. And since we are also getting a lot of questions now, I mean, to all the audience, once again, I'll tell you that with the help of Guillaume, Om, and analyst at BIS, we would try to answer these questions and send it across via email. So please don't dishearten yourself. I mean, it's a long day for everybody else and us also. So let's just conclude today's webinar on a good note and hoping that someday we'll see a very sustainable future in related to, I mean, the agricultural industry, right? So thank you everyone who attended, and I wish you all a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you very much, speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.